The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Atlanta, and welcome to the Ask the Expert show, where we bring you Atlanta's finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. This is our new launch of a very old show, and I can't have asked for a better first guest. We've actually been doing our show over a year now. Today's show is actually brought to you by Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta, who specialize in selling your business. Contact them today to set up an appointment by calling Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta at 770-936-9099. Today's first show, we are going to be talking about weight loss, which is probably the number one topic this time of year. People make resolutions. But I wanted to find somebody who was different, more qualified, because just to take a pill, I'm sure a lot of you have realized, does not work. And we discovered our first guest, who's going to be with us several times each month, Dr. Eldred Taylor. He has a clinic in Atlanta called Holistic Doctors. They work with weight loss, ED, hormones. And I have learned so much from Dr. Taylor. Good morning, Dr. Taylor.
Well, good morning, Steve. How are you?
This is an incredible show. We're on TV now. We've got our podcast. And I got to tell you, people are going to learn so much from you. Let's do a little background first, because you have an amazing background. You are an MD. You dealt in OBGYN, and all of a sudden the light went off. So tell people a little bit about your practice.
Well, the name of our practice is Taylor Medical and Wellness Group. I practice with my wife, Dr. Eldred Taylor. And trying to make a long story short, yes, I went to Emory University Medical School here in Atlanta and did a residency in obstetrics and gynecology. And I practiced OBGYN like everybody else, did pap smears, delivered babies, did hysterectomies, gave out birth control pills, gave out hormones. And I did that for about 7 or 8 years. And then my wife began to have hormone problems. And what I was doing for the patients wasn't working very well when I was living with someone 24/7. When you see a patient in the office, you see him for 15 minutes, you write a prescription, and you see him 6 months to a year later. So you don't really know what's going on. But I could see that giving my wife birth control pills and different things for anxiety or whatever just wasn't working. And so I actually had a patient that came in and gave me a tape on bioidentical or natural hormones. And I listened to that tape, and you're right, that light went off. And I'm like, wow, this really explains what I didn't learn in a 4-year residency. And so we started, and actually my wife did a lot of the research too, because she wanted to, get back to her old self or whatever. And so we kind of grew into this together. And so I got really interested in bioidentical hormones. And we wrote a book called Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? And from that discovery over 20 years ago, it just opened my eyes to a lot of other things that we could do to improve people's health and improve their functionality for as long as possible. I saw my parents the last 10 years of their life take a bunch of medications and their health just continually deteriorate till they finally passed away. And I kind of made a decision that I didn't want to follow that same path. So I began now a lifelong search of how can we help people function better for as long as possible. So what I call myself is a functional medicine doctor. How can we function as long as we can, as healthy as we can?
Well, I got to tell you, what you have done with your professional career is quite amazing. Um, we're going to talk today. We're going to kind of start back from when we first started together about the saliva test. And,
Yeah.
Dr. Taylor, it makes so much sense. How do you treat somebody starting with just giving them a pill and
Yeah.
not finding out what the problem is? And that's what I love about what you do. You first find out what the problem is first, so you know how to treat them.
Exactly. I did a 4-year residency in obstetrics and gynecology at Emory University, and not once did we test hormone levels in women. Never. If they were a young woman, it didn't matter what the problem was, we gave them birth control pills. If they're an older woman, we gave them either Premarin or Provera based on whether or not they had a uterus or not. We never checked hormones. And you got to think, would you take blood pressure medicine from a doc if they never checked your blood pressure? Would you take cholesterol medicine from a doc that never checked your cholesterol level? But we gave women hormones willy-nilly. And the only reason we stopped them in a menopausal woman was if they had breast cancer. And then we tell them to stop. And, that makes absolutely no sense. So that light went on when I learned about salivary testing. How if you test hormones in the saliva, it will give you an accurate indication of what the tissue levels are of hormones. See, the blood is just like a transit system. It's like a subway system or an interstate highway system. It takes nutrients and hormones from one place to another. And then when they get to the designated area, that's when they have their effect. So when you're looking at blood levels of hormones, you're just looking at what's on the transit system. They're not actually active. You need to know what is going on in the breast tissue, in the brain tissue, in the muscles, in the fat tissue. And the saliva gland is a place where those hormones are deposited. So if you know what the normal level in the saliva is, you can assume that then the normal level is in the breast and in the brain and in the prostate and whatever. But if that level is high in the saliva, you have to assume that it's high in other places. And if it's low in other places. So now I have accurate information. I can see what the problem is, give a hormone, retest them, make sure it's where it should be. And it just makes things so much simpler for the physician and for the patient to understand exactly what's going on with them. So that light bulb, that learning about saliva testing, it actually changed the whole trajectory of my life. And hopefully it changed the trajectory of my patients' lives. And hopefully through, all these ways we can communicate now with podcasts, that it can change the trajectory of other people's lives.
There's a phrase, a word that's always said when we're talking about hormones, and it's bioidentical. You will hear the phrase bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Dr. Taylor, what is bioidentical?
Well, if you break it down, it's pretty much just what it says. Biology means, bio means biology, okay? Identical. So we're saying we're going to use hormones that are identical to what is found in a person's biology. Now, when you talk about drugs or any kind of pharmaceutical, it can't be classified as a drug if it is found in nature. So if it is something that is found in your biology, you can't patent it and you can't sell it as a drug. So you have to change that compound. You have to change it in some way so you can call it a drug. So that's what's in birth control pills. Is not exactly progesterone. It's something called a progestin. And so if you use bioidentical hormones, your body actually knows what to do with it, how to use it, how to metabolize it, how to get rid of it, how to detoxify you of it. When you give the body something that is foreign to the body, it can sometimes, or well, I would say all the time, it can cause problems further down the line. That's why you have all of these side effects with drugs, because the body does not have the systems to properly use it, to metabolize it, to detoxify you of it. So it ends up affecting other systems. So you get all these side effects. Now, with bioidentical hormones, they're not 100% safe. With any hormone, if you have too much of the hormone or if you have too little of the hormone, it can cause problems. So a lot of people think, oh, it's bioidentical, it's natural, I can just take as much of it as I want. That is not true. And we know that with these athletes or just these bodybuilders who take too much testosterone, women who take too much estrogen, you can take too much progesterone and your body will stop reacting to it. It will be desensitized to it. So you have to have this therapeutic level that you need to stay in. So even with bioidentical hormones, you need to measure it correctly, and then you need to manage it correctly. Now, I will tell you that there are a lot of people who are claiming that they provide bioidentical hormone replacement, but they are not testing it appropriately, and you can overdose a patient, because if you're looking in the blood to see how much hormone a patient is absorbing, you're looking in the wrong place. And I see this all the time. Bioidentical hormones have gotten popular, and so everybody's trying to jump into this arena. And there are a lot of people just flat out doing it wrong. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I used to try and bite my tongue and not say that, but that is something that needs to be said.
I wanted our audience to know, by the way, if you have a question for Dr. Taylor, if you're watching us now on W4CY.com, if you're watching us right now, there's a comment section right to the right. You can write in your questions to Dr. Taylor. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to share something with the audience. I trust Dr. Taylor so much that I have gotten my fiance involved with this, because she is in her late 60s and she has tried to do everything to lose weight and nothing works. Actually, she's put on some weight, and it's so sad because she's such a beautiful woman. But we did the saliva test, and so even if you're out of town, Dr. Taylor can still work with you. We did the saliva test, and we found out where she was lacking so much in hormones that Dr. Taylor, she never really had a chance, because
Yeah.
we weren't treating the problem.
Right.
And
Right.
you and your wife have developed supplements. You deal with supplement companies that now you know what needs to be replaced. And one of the things was she was so tired all the time.
Mhm.
And you knew exactly what it was. And it showed up on the test. You were
Right.
exactly right.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is, first of all, you got to let Dr. Taylor find out what the problem is before he can treat you.
Yeah.
And patience is another thing. You know, a lot of people have been overweight for years and years, but they expect instant results. And
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. So tell people some of the things that are on the saliva test that it shows you.
Well, with women, the main issue that you want to make sure is balanced is estrogen and progesterone being balanced. Estrogen causes growth. It causes growth of breast tissue. It causes the growth of fibroids. It causes the growth of the endometrial tissue, or the lining of the uterus that's shed every month. So estrogen causes growth. Progesterone slows down that growth and increases normal development. Okay, so estrogen causes growth. Progesterone slows down the growth and increases the normal development of the tissue that estrogen affects. So also, estrogen allows you to store fat, and progesterone helps you to use that fat for energy. So if that is out of balance, I tell patients all the time, you can't exercise and diet your way past a hormone problem. The other hormone that we test very often is cortisol. Cortisol mobilizes glucose so that you have energy during the day. It should be high in the morning and low at night. It is also called the stress hormone because when you're under stress, you need more mobilization of glucose. So you have the energy to get through the stress. Well, if you have multiple stressors or you have long-term stress, like a bad marriage or a divorce or a sick child or just life, then cortisol can be depleted. It comes from your adrenal gland. It's called adrenal fatigue. And so a lot of times if you are trying to, if you need energy and your cortisol is low because you've just been under so much stress and you've actually fatigued your adrenal gland, you make up that energy deficit with carbohydrates, and usually simple carbohydrates, which will give you a quick energy burst, but it'll also increase the deposition of fat. So if cortisol is abnormal, and if your estrogen progesterone is out of balance, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to lose weight because your hormones are fighting you tooth and nail. If we correct your hormone imbalance, now what you do to try and lose weight is going to be much more effective. So I only got into weight loss because I started measuring hormones, and patients would come in and it's like, oh, wow, I started the hormone therapy and I lost 10 pounds. I lost 15 pounds. So that got me interested in weight loss and different ways to affect that. But I will tell you, the South Beach diet, the North Beach diet, the East-West diet, nothing is going to work if your hormones are out of whack. So we always start off the consultation by looking for signs that there may be a hormonal imbalance, and then we correct that, and then we move on from there.
And, like I was saying, my fiance, her cortisone level was so low, which is why she was always so tired.
Yeah.
And you're so right, because if you correct these hormonal problems, a lot of the rest of it takes care of itself.
Right. And I think also your fiance was having trouble sleeping.
Yes.
And it's no way you're going to have more energy during the day if you can't sleep. So, and that's always, it's always confusing to patients. I'm tired, but I can't sleep. That just doesn't make any sense, So, but what happens is progesterone is very calming. It acts like GABA in the brain, which is very calming. And so if you're low in progesterone, you're going to have a hard time going to sleep. So that was the issue. Her progesterone was low, so she couldn't sleep. Her cortisol was low, so she had no energy. Well, if you can't sleep, I tell patients all the time, whatever we do is not going to work if you can't sleep, because sleep is the time when your body repairs itself, rejuvenates itself, stores up energy so you have energy for the next day. So you're in a vicious cycle when you can't sleep and you're still tired. So that's just what's just so frustrating to patients. If I'm tired, why can't I go to sleep? And if I can't go to sleep, you're going to be tired the next day. So you have to fix that sleep problem.
I know there's people going right now, okay, what is his phone number? How do we reach him? How do we make an appointment? Yeah. And we're going to give your phone number out right now, but also it's really important that they have your website, and because they can make an appointment on your website.
Right. Yeah, you can make an appointment on the website 24/7, and we do telemedicine. Since COVID, the telemedicine rules have gotten a lot more relaxed, so I can see people out of state or whatever. And I don't take the place of a primary care physician. You still need to go and get your checkups and get your lab work done. I'm doing, what your primary physician is not doing.
Exactly.
I'm like a cardiologist, whatever, this is a specialty. So I don't take over, I'm not trying to take anybody's patients away. But my telephone number is 678-443-4000. The website is taylormedicalgroup.net. And on there, if you click on health news, we have several articles, several write-ups. My wife writes a blog like every week on all kinds of topics so that you can educate yourself. Our best patient is an educated patient.
Yes.
Because now we can work together to try and correct the problem. I don't want you to do anything that you don't fully understand. A lot of times I'll tell patients, I want you to research this subject. If you feel comfortable with it, then let's go in that direction. If you don't feel comfortable, then let's not do it. So on that website, there's a lot of information to help educate you. And you can book online. It's up at the top. It says book now. If you're out of town, we do a telemedicine. And sometimes what we'll do is send you the test kit before we actually have the appointment so that we have all the information we need to start treatment right at that first visit. So, we would love to hear from you. Again, this is a platform that I'm hoping to reach a lot more people and educate them about how they can live healthier for a much longer span in their life.
So if you can see, we have it up there now, www.taylormedicalgroup.net. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the best way to do it. And Dr. Taylor is going to be with us when we get on our actual schedule starting in February. He is going to be with us the first and last Wednesday of the month. And we come on at 9:00. That way you can absolutely keep up. We're going to be talking about ED. We're going to be talking about hormone. Because our female audience now is going to be much larger now. We're going to be talking about a lot of hormones as it relates to females. Remember, this Dr. Taylor is an MD. He knows the human body. And I got to tell you, if you want long-term results, because there are stuff out there, Dr. Taylor, you might lose a little weight at first, but it's funny. It's not funny. You end up not only gaining it back, but you end up gaining more than you originally lost.
Yeah.
And Dr. Taylor wants to stop that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't fix the underlying problem, it's going to come back. So, you talk about I'm an MD. I know the human body. I'm going to be very honest with you. In medical school, they focus a lot on pharmacology. In functional medicine, we focus on physiology. Is how does the body work? I learned a lot about what drug to give for what symptom, and I don't think that's good medicine. And I may get chastised for this, but I know I've learned a whole lot more about the human body in the last 15 or 20 years learning functional medicine than I ever learned. Now, I took anatomy and all that, but I'll tell you the truth. Once you get into the hospital, they don't focus on that much at all. They focus on what drug to give for what symptom, what side effect, and then what drug do you give for the side effect, and so on and so forth. In the last 15 years, I've learned more about the human body and how it functions than I ever did in medical school.
Wow.
And I hate to say that. I love Emory. It gave me the degree, but I'm going to tell you, the things that I know now did not come from that education.
Wow. We got to get out of here. We will
Okay.
see you again. I think it's going to be the last Wednesday of this month, but I will let you know, and I'll let our audience know.
Okay.
Dr. Taylor, I'm so glad we have you for this new launch of the Ask the Expert show. We'll see you again. Thanks so much. And our next guest is going to be talking about buying and selling a business, and mostly selling a business. And they are one of the largest business brokers in the United States. The name of the company is called Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta. And I got to tell you, we get more people contacting us, business owners, about this show. We're waiting for the president of the Atlanta division, Doreen Morgan, to come on with us. She should be on any second now. And there she is. Good morning, Doreen.
Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Oh, wait.
Can you hear us okay? Doreen, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Let me see what's happening on my end. Check your volume on your computer. Make sure your volume's up. She cannot hear us. Doreen, can you hear us now?
Sound settings.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but you can't hear us
The sound
apparently.
is off, but
Let me see. One.
Okay, there. I'm sorry about that.
Were you on mute?
I have kids, and sometimes they get on my computer.
I hear
When
you.
they're
Good
playing
morning.
games, they like to turn the sound all the way down. So
Yes.
sorry about that. I should have checked that before I got on. How are you?
We're doing good. Doreen's company, Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta. The show is actually brought to you by Sunbelt Business Brokers. All of our shows are. And we are so excited that we have Sunbelt Business Brokers, because I got to tell you, I had a business that I tried to sell myself. It was the biggest mistake I ever made. But I didn't realize that there was companies like Sunbelt that does all the work for you. So here I had people calling my business up, talking to my employees. I had the tire kickers. It was a mess. And after a year, I had nothing. I was no further ahead after a year than when I first started. And a friend of mine said, "Why don't you have a business broker?" I had no idea what a business broker was. And I did my research, and this was 20 years ago. But listen, my business did not sell the next day, but what it did was it made my life so much better. They did all the work. They would just and when they brought me somebody, they'd already done all their due diligence. And I found out, and that's what sold my business. So a business broker is so important. And we were blessed enough to get a company like Sunbelt, who has the most unbelievable reputation. So, Doreen, we are so glad that we have you and Sunbelt. Tell us a little bit about Sunbelt.
Okay. Well, Sunbelt Atlanta has been in the Atlanta market for 25 years. We're probably the largest brokerage and M&A advisory firm in the southeastern United States, part of Sunbelt Network, which is 250 offices in 10 countries. In my firm here, we represent sell side only, and we represent companies from transaction value of about 750,000, which is kind of considered Main Street, up to transaction value of about 75 million, which is more lower middle market. We've got 8 professionals here in the firm, and everyone kind of has an area of expertise. We do an awful lot of business in construction, medical, technology. Manufacturing and distribution is a huge part of our practice, and basically B2B service.
Well, the way and Doreen's one of her representatives who will be with us every month, every week, every week. And the way Doreen breaks it down, we're going to break it down by types of businesses selling. Today, we're going to talk about the construction business. So if you have a construction company and you're thinking about selling your business, oh, today's an incredible show to listen to. Now, if you want to reach Sunbelt, their phone number is 770-936-9099. Doreen, how do you determine the value of a construction business?
Well, valuations in the construction industry, there's always a general rule of thumb, which we like to say rules of thumbs are good for measuring thumbs, but it's going to be based on a multiple of your adjusted EBITDA. And EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Depending on the sector, we do a lot in heavy construction and civil engineering, and those types of companies are going to drive higher multiples than a small renovation contractor will. But in general, we are looking at what the company truly nets for that owner. So we look at we add back the owner's salary on a small company, but it's going to be based on a multiple of earnings. And I wanted to talk about construction today because that sector is a very, very hot sector right now. Lots of people are interested in moving into the construction space. Strategic buyers in the construction space are sitting on, piles of cash, and so they're making acquisitions. And actually, over the past, when we do an analysis and we look at that space from 2010 to 2017 to 2018 to today, overall in the construction space, valuations have gone up 6%. And on small companies, they've jumped as much as 25%. And we see that we don't see that slowing down on our lower middle market transactions. So those are going to be transactions valued at $5 million and up, generating EBITDA of at least $1 million or $1.5 million. On the smaller side, we don't think valuations are going to fall immediately. There's a lot of activity for smaller companies rolling up, very small companies, and valuations on the smaller side could change if an SBA loan is involved, because this last interest rate hike sent SBA backed loans, interest rates are just hit double digits. So,
Doreen, I got to tell you, Pete, you do so much work, whether it's due diligence, checking out finances. You don't get a dime until you perform, basically. That's pretty gutsy. Gutsy.
That's how I set this firm up. We sit on the same side of the table with the seller until the business sells. And we're probably one of the few firms that charge no retainer fees at all. We don't charge anything up front. But you know what? We're business owners. All of us here at Sunbelt are former business owners or business owners currently and so we've all had to, sweat it out at night on how we're going to make payroll at some point in our life. And that's important. And the business owners that we represent, 95% of them, at least, they don't charge their customers and clients upfront to do the job that they provide. And so that is why we are set up as we are.
But you do so much work without a retainer fee, and you are so confident about what you do that you can make a claim like that. Because I didn't realize all the work you do just to bring that first client to your client with
Yeah.
no money down.
No. The first thing we do is an opinion of value on the company, and we don't charge to do the opinion of value because, as a business owner, you can't really know if you're ready to sell your business until you know how much your business is going to go for on the open market. And so, and we can't know if we can help you sell your business until we do that. So, that for us is just the starting point. That's got to be done. And so we don't charge for that because it's something that we can't move forward with without. And then, from there, we'll do industry research and, look at what's going on in your specific industry, in your space, who's making acquisitions, what those acquisitions look like, what trends are moving towards in your specific industry. And then when we enter an engagement, if the timing is right, we enter into engagement. And if the opinion of value comes out to be something that's not quite going to work for you, you're not quite ready to retire yet, we can give you some pointers on what you can do to drive the value of your business. But once we enter an engagement contract or a listing agreement, we sit with you and complete a really comprehensive Q&A document so that we can put together the marketing materials on your business. And while we're doing that, we're building target lists of, we look at, okay, who is going to benefit from owning this business the most? And they could be strategic or strategic buyers, other people that are in your industry directly or horizontally or vertically. And we create a list of, of the companies that could benefit from owning your company the most. And then we've, again, been in business here for 25 years. We've got exhaustive databases of private equity firms, holding companies, family offices. We have an active database of close to 2,000 financial buyers right now. And an active buyer for us is someone that has inquired on a business with us in the past 12 months, has completed a non-disclosure agreement, sent in resumes and financial statements, and are actively in the market looking for business. So when we go to market, we take an invitation to acquire out to all of those people. So we're casting a very, very broad net. We're typically going to 6,000 buyers. All confidentially. No one knows that it's your company for sale. We're very careful in how we do this. The one pager gives people enough information about your business so that they can determine whether or not they'd be interested, but not enough that they can figure out who you are. And we do a lot of like keyword searches and things like that so that we know someone can't figure that out. If you're in a niche industry, sometimes we might not be able to say it's in Georgia or, we might only be able to say it's somewhere in the United States or in the Southeastern United States. So confidentiality, we take that very seriously.
Doreen, when I was selling my business, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made was putting a value on my business. When you put a lot of blood and sweat into building a business, it's almost like they're your baby, your child. And you think the value is a lot more than really true value is. And that's one of the things that you get into. And sometimes you got to break the news to your client that the business is not worth as much as they think it is. Not that it's a bad business. And that's got to be a tough part about your job, getting them into reality.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think people more and more know or have a general idea of what their business might be worth because there's so much information out there now. But yeah, it is, it's you only sell a business once. It's very much an education. And we go through that. And it's interesting because sometimes we have we have sellers that, and we love these meetings because their business is worth more than they thought it was. And we see that a good bit too. So,
Yeah, I
but
can see that also happening. Um, so we're talking about the construction business today, and what types of buyers are looking for businesses in the construction space?
in the construction space right now, especially like heavy infrastructure, civil engineering, those buyers there are private equity firms, family offices, strategic buyers. There's a lot of M&A activity in that space right now, and that's because of the infrastructure bill, that has been passed by Congress, and there's just lots of money that will be funneled into that space for roads, bridges, water and sewer rehabilitation, heavy infrastructure project, railroads, lots of movement there, lots of activity there. And then on general contracting businesses, that's usually also going to be a strategic. But then when you get down to the smaller Main Street businesses, and those are going to be businesses that have net income, adjusted EBITDA of less than $1 million. Those can be financial buyers, as well as strategic buyers and private equity firms and things. And a lot of times those are going to be industry insiders. They've at least worked in the construction industry, because you have to have a general contractor's license, and so it's people that have worked for someone else that are in a position to be able to buy their own company.
Well, I hope this doesn't put you on the spot. My next question, but I'm sure people are out there thinking, well, how long does this take? How long will it take to sell my business? Don't be like me at first, where I'm calling every day. Did you hear anything? Did you hear? Because you're going to be the first one who's going to know. I learned, let you do your job, and you will bring the people, you'll bring the horse to the water. So people are going, so how long does this normally take?
It takes between 5 and 7 months. With our process, we've done this for a very long time. We have our process down to a science, and we're working in the background. You don't have to take the foot off the gas. You run your business, and we sell it. And typically, because of the way we go to market, we're taking it to so many buyers. And then in addition to that, we're putting it on our website and Sunbelt Network's website, and then the several other MLS type websites that are just for businesses for sale. So we're casting a very wide net, and we will send out anywhere from between 20, and we just had one company actually that we sent out 250 NDAs in the first week. So
Wow.
yeah. So finding the buyer usually happens fairly quickly, and then we always say that finding the buyer is really kind of 10% of what we do. The work really starts when we find that buyer, and then we draft the LOI, and we move everyone through the due diligence process, and we coordinate with the accountants and the attorneys, but that process. We manage that entire process. We're also, for our Main Street transactions, we're going out and lining up financing, and we do that while we're putting together the marketing materials. So by the time we've identified the buyer, we have a bank that's already on board with doing the loan, and we have a term sheet ready to go. But we manage that process because due diligence, it's important. That timing is very important when you release specific information about your company, which, confidentiality, going back to that, the only way you can keep the sale of your company confidential is to use, an M&A advisor or business broker, because otherwise it's your phone number in those ads, and they're calling you directly and they're calling your employees. So there's no secret that your company's for sale. But then managing the due diligence process, it's understanding when to release what information and holding sensitive information until you're getting to certain points in due diligence.
Doreen, we just had a listener text us wanting to know, do you evaluate, if I just want my business evaluated to see what it's worth, do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't charge to do that. We do an opinion. It's a fair market opinion of value. And we do that. We love to do that. We like to get in front of business owners right when they first start thinking about selling. So, that opinion of value is a starting point. It's a starting point for, the business owner, because you usually don't you have an idea of what your business is worth, but you really don't know about your specific business. And then for us, it gives us an opportunity to get in front of you, learn a little bit about you and your company. And you get to learn a little bit about us in the process. And, it's never too early to start thinking about selling your business. And it can be good to just stay in touch and say, hey, what's going on in the market? And, getting that opinion of value early is helpful, because, what we really hate are the meetings where people have been thinking about selling for the past 5 years, 7 years, even 10 years, and then something happens where they have to sell the business, and the business is not worth what they had thought it was, and or they kind of did their own valuation and decided that, they've kind of hung their hat on, this is what my company is worth, and it's their entire retirement. And then to find out that it's not, those are bad situations.
But I would have rather known that, which when I was trying to do it
Early
myself,
on, yeah.
I wasted a lot of time and a lot of effort. And it is so important to know what your business is really worth, whether it's worth more or less. That's a starting point.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, the way Sunbelt handles their business, because I've watched it through you, there's no one else out there like Sunbelt. I mean, there isn't anybody.
We like to think that we're.
But I'm so glad that we have Sunbelt Business Brokers of Atlanta. And I'm so glad you're going to be with us every week, because we're going to talk about a different area of business, type businesses. And we've done restaurant shows, we've done franchise shows. I just sit here and I could go on with you for hours. Doreen, give everybody your phone number.
It's 770-936-9099.
And your website?
It's Sunbelt Atlanta, and Atlanta is spelled out.com. And we have resources on our website, about how to sell a business, and a lot about the process. And we will always do a recap of these shows and kind of put the resources together on, in this case, it'll be, the top 3 things that really impact the value of a construction company. It's going to be things like customer concentration and project work versus maintenance contracts, bonding issues and things you can do in that space to improve the value of the company. And
well, Doreen will be back with us again at 10:25 next week. Sunbelt's the Coca-Cola of the industry. That's the best way to say it.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
Anyway, we will see you next week, Doreen, and we will see you all next week. If you want to watch the show through the TV, it's www.w4cy.com. We will see you all next week with more Ask the Experts. Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.